This is Glurmit and Still Plays. We've got a new recurring series where once a week we'll put out a video on each of our channels where we look at the Grand Arena from a free-to-play and paid perspective. This will be a free-form conversation taking a look at shifting metas, new characters, and any gearing or planning strategies we think will help moving forward.
In case you guys didn't realize, I am Glurmit. That is Still Plays, right? Just to clear that up. All right. So to get into today's episode, right, we wanted to quickly cover our Grand Arenas for the last week, you know, the highs, the lows, and kind of give you guys a basis for how the week's gone.
Yeah, with my Grand Arena, I haven't done my final battle yet, but we're 2-0. The big thing that I've been finding with my Grand Arena is this shift I've been making with my defense throughout the period of 3v3, where initially I was not getting any holds and I had to figure out how I wanted to handle Lord Vaders and Jabbas without the datacrons I was relying on a season ago. And as I've gone on, the big things that I've seen are Admiral Trench on defense, how on offense I was unimpressed with him, but on defense he's been getting a bunch of holds, making that a problem for my opponents. I had been doing testing with Tuskens. Once I was satisfied, I had learned what I wanted to from them. I moved them over to defense, and they've been doing a lot of work on defense. And the other thing is just the benefits of Zori, just seeing how she's been working. She's a great character at any level.
Yeah, definitely can second the Zori comment. I think throughout this 3v3 season, I must have had 20 plus holds on Zori. Man, no, seriously, and she's holding against such good teams. Obviously, there's gonna be a gear difference between your Zori and mine, but seriously, like you said, any level Zori is just amazing. So to give you guys a recap of my Grand Arena for the week, I'm currently 1-1, and in terms of character zones, I am smashing it. I'm breaking my records for banners, for low gear, for under gear, not even under gear, but undermanning zones. I'm doing so many solos, but I get to fleets and it all crumbles. And that's partly because as I'm climbing, I'm climbing into near Kaiba 1. I think if I win tomorrow's Grand Arena, I will be there before the squish, obviously. And one of the issues is my opponents are all having Relic 8, Relic 9 pilots. And I'm not very good at fleets as it is, and when you add on the higher relic levels on the pilots, like a negotiator, for example, the common counters I'm using are just failing, and it's getting really, really tough for me.
Yeah, I've been noticing the same thing in terms of the importance of relic pilots, especially with, I've been doing the negotiator mirror a lot more because of how I've changed up my defensive strategy and forcing myself into needing to use mirrors instead of using the Profundity or Executor on offense. And what that has shifted into is me seeing my Negotiator fail a lot more, even though that's a counter that most of us are pretty comfortable on. And part of that is those additional relics on a lot of those pilots are really forcing a lot of those mirrors to become pretty unreliable when they were pretty safe before. And the other parts that I've been wanting to prioritize and focus has been, because I have Gear 11 pilots on my Finalizer and my Radis, so those fleets don't really work, but I don't want to invest in them to that Galactic Legend level. So finding those key pilots where you can beef up those fleets without fully investing in them, because that's going to detract you from working on other projects. But you can grab a tank pilot, you can grab an attacker pilot, and start making those fleets a little bit more formidable.
So one thing I'm noticing in fleets, especially lately, and especially in the last couple of weeks, is now I'm always at a disadvantage in fleets because I do not have Profundity. Even though I'm 10.3 mil, I just never got around to it. I had to take a break from the game when it came out, and I never caught up. And you would assume that people would just save Profundity for defense in that case, and they'd set the exec Profundity Negotiator. But most of the time, Profundity is just always saved as an offensive fleet. Think of it like in the high-end Kaiba, people are saving Reva, people are saving Jabber in some cases, right, as an offensive character because they will max banner whatever they want to go up against, right? Which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it's something where the Profundity was something that I had been using on offense for a lot of those reasons, but when with my defense, because I don't have the Galactic Legends placed down on my squads, my defenses were usually going to get cleared by anybody with more Galactic Legends, which is everybody.
Yeah.
So I needed to find a way, like, okay, if those territories aren't going to hold, I might roll the dice, put Profundity on defense, and see if I can use my Scythe counter, use some of these more RNG dependent counters on offense, and see if I can get through. Because at least then my opponent is placed in the same position as well, where they're relying on the same types of counters.
Of course. So I feel like now would be a good time for us to kind of talk about our first big topic of today's video, right? And it's going to be Reva. TB's coming up. It starts as of tomorrow. We're recording on a Sunday. And I'm going to be honest, looking at all the big guilds, like considering the guild I'm in, I think we're 47 out of 50 Revas at the moment. And every guild, I would say there's 400 mil or above. Within the next, I would say 2 to 3, maybe 4 months, some even closer, maybe even some a few weeks away, are going to be half the guild to more than half the guild full of Reavers. And this means it's going to be a case of anyone in Khyber within the next few weeks to few months, you are going to be facing Reva on defense. And I mean, I'm sure you've all seen the streams from Arnold, the streams from Zareth, the streams from other people who have faced Reva, and you've all seen that she is awful to deal with. So what we want to do here, both me and Still Plays, is we want to help you guys out there who are maybe, high-end Erodium, low-end Khyber, compete, because you don't want to go in against Reva and have to save your Lord Vader, have to save your Sith Eternal, because if that's the case, you're basically losing out on a GL and your opponent's always going to be an advantage. So I'll start this topic off. Now, the Reva in 3v3 is very different to 5v5. I would say if you're free to play, or if you just don't have the best roster in the world, you're going to be able to cope a lot more efficiently in threes, because you can invest in the Treya team. The Treya team's very strong in 3v3, but you do need decent relic levels. Again, you can use Lord Vader solos in threes. You can also run Sith Eternal Wat Temple. But it's honestly quite scary to think about, because it's not like a GL where it will seem like everyone has them, but in reality it's just people who farmed them. Everyone's going to have her.
Completely echo what you're saying. She's going to be trickling out over this next period of weeks and months, probably a lot faster than we are expecting. And what we are going to see is a scenario of the haves and the haves not, where the players who get Reva early are going to have a massive advantage, and we need to be preparing in advance. Like, I've got a Gear 12 Treya. That's not going to cut it. Every player needs to be building up their Treya squads right away.
Yeah. 100%.
So that we can be having a counter in our pocket before that happens. Otherwise, we're going to be really limited with how we're going to approach those. And on the other side of it, players who have Reva, setting down defenses that really challenge your opponents to have enough counters is going to be really valuable. Setting down like a Radis, a Reva, or even a Grand Inquisitor squad where they're all asking for a Treya, your opponent's going to have to make some tough decisions.
So I just want to jump in and say, I've been, this past week, in preparation for today's episode, I've been looking up the current trend in Reva battles in threes especially. So currently it's a 51% win rate, which is better than Zori, which is crazy. Zori holds more than Reva. I can't believe that even today. But in terms of the actual teams that are winning, so we've got Treya, Nihilus, Scion, 29% win rate. I think that's probably the weakest lineup you can do, because Scion doesn't pre-taunt, and if Treya dies early on, you're done for. JMK Cat, 70% win rate. Treya, Nihilus, Savage, 81% win rate. So you really need Savage in there. Sith Eternal, Sith Empire Trooper, Wat Tambor, 97%. Lord Vader, Thrawn Royal Guard, 93%, but I think the win rate actually goes up when you only do Lord Vader, because no one's getting Death Mark, they're not ramping as much. Jabba, 95%, Reva mirror match, 47%. That's very surprising. But the team that I saw the other day, and the team that makes me go, okay, this is interesting now. I don't know if you saw it. I saw it on YouTube the other day. It's actually Fennec, Mando, and Bam. It's very dicey, and I think it's more of a high-end team where you need those Relic 7, Relic 8s. But the idea is, like against Lord Vader, Reva's inflicting so many stacks of Purge on everyone. So you're gonna, like, Bam is the one, instead of using Grief, you're gonna bring Bam. And when he does the damage immunity, he's gonna cleanse, give you Contract. And the idea is that Mando just comes in, disintegrates Reva. But the problem is, you've still got her lead in place. You have to be careful with Deathmark. But it's definitely a good two-shot, 100%. I mean, I'm looking on the insights, and most of the time, even on the losses, Reva's defeated. And if Reva's gone, the team's a lot easier to deal with. So there are ways to deal with her. It just depends. I would say, I mean, you're the free-to-play guy here. If you're in that position, I'm sure you would say Treya, right? Treya's the way to go. But maybe...
Treya's the way to go.
Yeah.
But with the new raid, building out a Beskar Mando
Yeah, exactly.
and a Mando,
Yeah.
that has its own value.
Well, exactly.
There's not a downside to that.
Yeah. So the video I saw used all Relic 7 and I think Relic 8 Bam. I'm looking on the stats right now. So Relic 7 Fennec, Relic 5 Bam, Relic 5 Mando won. But the Kron had loads of armor, right? So you have to account for that. On average, we're looking at around about Relic 8, Relic 7 across the board for the consistent wins. I don't think Fennec's the one that matters. Honestly, it's Mando and Bam. They are the two. Because obviously Deathmark is going to bypass Mando's revive mechanic. And the trick is you need to kind of hold off on the damage immunity and apply it as Bam is about to come in and do his big hit. Because you don't want to apply the damage immunity the turn before. Because if he doesn't get the disintegrate off, then you're screwed. But like I said, most of the time, you're at least setting up the easy two-shot. And I feel like this may be something that a lot of people should be working on. And obviously, we're talking about 3v3 today, but for 5v5, I could see this transferring there. Because I feel like you could run Bosk in there. I reckon you could run Grief in there. Whether or not it works the same, I don't know. But it's something to think about, right?